right, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I am your host, Brian Carter, and join with me as I won't say always, but for the most part, we're 99% here. We got Hank the Bass Geek right there in the bottom left corner for you guys, center corner. And then to the left of me, for you guys who are all watching YouTube, we got our boy from Fishing the DMV.
Hello.
So Thomas with Fishing the DMV, by the way, guys. So we're gonna dive into tonight's show. We got something we want to talk about. As you guys say, we kind of split our show in half. I want to tell you straight up, we've never done one of these before, but we're splitting it up in half because we really didn't want to go over our hour limit. So, Geek, what's happening in your world first? And we're gonna kind of do like we always do, man. We're gonna go around the room real quick, talk about what's happening, and then dive into something that we all saw come out this week, and we could not let it rest.
Well, first off, I want to say thanks for saying I'm here 98% of the time because I've been told it's probably more about 50-50 that I'm here. So, you weren't talking about mentally. Okay, sorry. But yeah, man, just as I always say, just living the grind. So, banging and slanging them fishing videos, y'all.
That's what I was gonna say, guys. If you did not see, and I didn't mention it on the last show, 80,000 subs.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We need, guys. Okay, there's 1 million people. Bassmaster followed the Basscast this past week. We don't know if they're stalking us or they just really want to follow us. We think it's the last one, but they have 1 million followers. Why can't we get Bass Geek to 100,000 followers on YouTube? I think we can do it. I mean, just hit the share button. And it's just like the show and what Thomas does. We don't ask for you guys. I mean, Thomas does have his Patreon.
I do.
Okay. Thomas has his Patreon, which helps pay so his wife doesn't beat him. And yes. I have the basscast.com, which helps pay the bills because, that's our main bread and butter. So thank you. I know you guys don't like the Google ads, but you haven't donated any money. So Google ads has to pay for it. Apologize. I got to make $1 and I ain't making nothing. But, hit the subscribe button for all of us. Hit the share button because that helps to grow the algorithm. I'll tell you this. I don't know if the share button, making comments probably is more important than all of it. Because once you start making lots of comments, it starts blowing up and it blows up higher and higher.
Just watching.
And it blows up in the Facebook feed as well, and in social media feeds because social media says, "Hey, people are paying attention to this. So let's bring it up a little bit higher on the top where more people get to see it." So, Thomas, what's happening in your world, brother?
Dude, it's just been a great week. I had a fantastic call-in show that happened this past Monday, a couple weeks ago, and it absolutely blew up, talking about all the controversy over the St. Lawrence River. This was like such a weird mecca. Zona basically retired, Rick Clunn retired.
Yeah, we brought that up.
An individual we talk about today, he did a speech that was the antithesis of Abraham's, which only went 5 minutes. This one was like an hour and a half, what he wrote on Facebook. So, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Zona part. I thought about that really hard at work the other day, and Zona's gonna be missed. I mean, guys, Zona. If you ask me, Zona's the face of Bassmaster.
Who will you miss more, Rick Clunn or listening to Zona?
Zona.
I love Clunn,
Zona,
but
for me.
It's definitely Zona.
It's Zona. Zona is Bass. Since I've been in this thing. Now, guys, I've been in it for 15 years. I started back in 08, 09 when the elites were here. And you guys loved Zona then. I mean, if I was to go back and look at my archives, Zona's videos did better than any damn angler on the water that weekend.
Zona has been the voice of bass fishing
for really has.
Ever, seems like.
And just the knowledge and, I'm not sure how much other involvement he was, but we also had this happen last year as well. We had Mr. Marty Stone, being asked to leave Major League Fishing. And I am going to bring this damn debate up. You kind of wonder what's to happen there as well. I mean, Zona ain't old enough to retire. Good God, there's no way. I mean, I'm 51.
Well,
Zona might be 50. I don't even know. So you
I don't
kind of,
think I don't think it's anything
I
with
don't
Zona.
think
I
it is
think,
I hope
either.
it's not. I hope it's not.
yeah.
I hope it's not. Please comment below your thoughts and opinions on that because, I mean, Marty Stone played a major role in Major League Fishing. I mean, he really
Mm-hmm.
did. And, you know, I've spoken, Marty lives down the road from us. We're blessed. He's an hour and a half from me. And me and him have spoke a lot since that's happened because he's kind of got back down in our world. And you know, Marty said he did. You know, I can't take all of his. I can't take his grain of salt that Marty had a lot of impact on what happened in Major League Fishing, where they would go help picking lakes, and you know, you wonder how much influence we know Zona had, and he had a whole lot of influence, if you ask me. And Zona was just, I mean, yeah, Zona's going to be missed. I mean, it's no other way to say it. He's really going to be missed. He's a cool dude too.
I wonder how much of it is because who's one of Zona's best buds?
Hmm.
I think it starts with a K and ends with
And
a
a V?
VD.
Yeah.
And so his big pitch was he's going to go work on his show. Who else
Has a
is now
show.
starting a television show? So you wonder if maybe that's not, some sort of double production, tag team, super duper combo extraordinaire.
Plus, we also have to think about if for the people that have watched the show and have listened to him, like, his family is big in his life. He had those years where his sons were about to go to college and he took a lot of time off to spend time with them. Like, who knows? I just hope it's those reasons and it's not like next year in the MLF is like,
Yeah. So we're gonna miss Zona tremendously at watching, listening, getting his opinion, his thoughts. The guy knew fishing. I mean, he really did. He really, and he was filled with information. So that information is hopefully going to be passed on to another generation. We'll see what happens in 2025. We know we'll see press releases come out. But tonight we're going to dive into Mr. Clark Wendelet. We all saw that post. As I posted, there's too damn much to read. But it was huge. I mean, it really was. And I'm gonna let Thomas got something he wants to say. So go ahead, Thomas.
I mentioned this on last time's show where when people start doing this, and we have gone through a lot with media and people since the year and the stuff that happened in that year that we can't talk about on YouTube, where you really need to do some intellectual thinking about why is this being said now? Yeah. What light flipped?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm jaded at that point, but with so many people coming out saying this one thing, why now is it allowed? Because, last thing, he won Angler of the Year with Garmin when there was no other company that had forward-facing sonar. And people were arguing. But Lowrance came out with it in 2020 when COVID literally happened. No one could get it with him. So a highlight of his career was because of forward-facing sonar. So it's a little hypocritical that really wasn't like brought up at all, I think, where it's like, by the way, like this really helped my career. And I don't think it's there. I don't know.
Yeah. So we read, if you guys, hopefully by now, I mean, this is almost, Thomas sent it to us, a couple other people. I got pretty bombarded by it, by all the emails and the blast about this coming out. And, one of the things Winlet talks about is forward-facing sonar undermines the skill and challenge that makes bass fishing compelling. The ease of catching fish with forward-facing sonar detects from the sport's appeal where difficulty, mastery are key. And, we talked about that on the show a while back. And Thomas brought this up, and, Geek has as well, because you're not going to catch every fish with some forward-facing sonar.
I just had a buddy of mine, Joey, up from South Carolina. We fished 2 lakes, and I feel like I'm pretty good with my electronics. And it took me a minute. I've ledge fished for years. I'm really good with down inside, but when I first got forward facing, it was a different beast. You change the way you fished, and I hate to say that out loud, because the only reason you change the way you fish is because it opened a door to fish that we'd never. Well, a lot of people on a lot of the lakes that I fished, I've already fished for those open water suspended bass, busting bass. But the point that I want to make is those fish have gotten used to. And when I brought my buddy up here, we spent 2 days fishing for these fish that over the past 2 years, I've been able to go and wreck. We caught 2 bass. They are already used to 90% of the lures that we were throwing for these fish. They are, and maybe not the lures. Thomas had a great podcast / YouTube video you should all go check out, where he talked to the Department of Wildlife
for Texas.
Yeah, for Texas. And he talks very much about boat pressure. These bass out in the open water have not experienced boat pressure. Every bass on the bank or ledge has experienced boat pressure since that lake was created.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, 100
Oh,
years.
yeah.
So these fish out in the open have never been pressured like that. So my opinion, and this guy literally was not a fan of forward-facing sonar. He's going to go buy one now because I proved to him that it's not the golden bullet. It's not spotlighting. It's not 100%. It's not even 20.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure, like, for these notes and stuff, so I don't take anything out of context, but there was one word on here. I'm going to make sure I find it. Bass fishing. Oh, yeah. This word simplifying.
Yeah.
I really want to make sure that's not taken out of context. That wasn't, if this was not specifically what Clark Lindemann said, I apologize. But if it was, by bass fishing, by simplifying the sport to the point where traditional techniques knowledge. So let's break it down. How is it simplifying it? What do you mean by that? Because it's not simple at all.
No.
Doing this. So it reeks of something. I don't know what it is. Is it guilt? Is it him being paid? What is going on that would make you write this kind of thing? And again, some of this wording just doesn't make any sense. Let's see, another one was, it concerns me about the committee. Windland raises concerns about the Bass Committee evaluating forward-facing sonar and the extensive professional experience with it. So he doesn't believe there's enough experienced people on the board with this. So what you mean is people of a certain age, which we talked about, should be an age that hates screens and hates video games on the board to say, like, I don't like this technology. Again, I didn't have time to bring this up last show, but if you are a business, you pick a generation that you want to take your product to. And it seems like Major League Fishing and Bass, right or wrong, are saying, like, listen, we want to cater to people that are 50 plus years old.
Right.
Okay, you can do that thing, but I bet you $20 tonight that in 10 to 15 years, forward-facing sonar will come back when my kids come up through and they're used to technology and me showing them forward-facing sonar. So we're going to be back here again.
With what he said there, and I'll let you run over there in a second, Geek. With what he said there about the Bass Committee, I ain't going to say nothing, Bass is like any other organization, and you kind of wonder on top of that, I don't know how much they really fish. You know what I'm saying? They run a business, and you kind of wonder, and it's just like, we spoke to the gentleman. I got so much in my head. That's running the the rivers and roads, and he's working with another organization that has no clue about bass fishing. They want more people. Their goal is to bring more people in, more people visit, more people explore the waters, and that brings in more revenue. And I don't want to say that about bass, because there's, underneath, and that's the people you saw. Mark Zona. I mean, you saw Mark Zona and a lot of other anglers that they brought on underneath the umbrella. And then the guys at the top are just there to, I ain't gonna say make money, but they really are. I mean, they really are. And they probably don't they don't know enough about it because they're just making sure we get sponsors and checks get cashed and everybody gets paid.
And let's face it, none of the electronics companies have come out and said, we're just not selling these. We're going to stop making them. We're not selling them. Nobody's buying them. So,
and just like we've made the point on here many times about the price of boats. And during COVID and during the the recession that we had a few years ago, and I ain't gonna lie, guys, we really are in another recession. It's not as big, but we are in one. But the $100,000 bass boats were still selling. You guys were still writing the checks for 100,000 boats because you got 365 months to pay them off. I'm just throwing numbers out there, guys. Go ahead.
If I may, so I have the article here verbatim. I just want you to read this and get everyone's reaction here. So, 25 years to learn how to fish and compete at the highest level, but that it has taken him 5 months to learn how to compete at the same level using forward-facing sonar. Whereas a new angler made the observation that forward-facing sonar is introducing more people to the sport because it makes it easier to catch fish. We are the professionals. It should not be easy for us. Basky, could you talk about that real quick?
So here's my opinion on that. Again, 50 years old. I'm an old bird, fart dust, all that. And we talked about it. If you guys haven't listened to the show previous to this, you should hear my tirade about it being an emotional thing. I understand. I have not, from us old guys, I had the same reaction the first time I seen it. I was lucky enough to be on John Sokup's boat, who's very good with it, and was with the Bass Tank at that time, who are also a group of guys who are very good with forward-facing sonar. But I also reiterate, we should not jump to conclusions. Does it make it easier? It makes it easier to find bass, which isn't that what side image done when it first come out? Isn't that what down image done when it first come out? Yes, it was. That's, again, brought a guy who's older than me, put him on 2 lakes where I thought we were going to wreck them, and caught 2 fish in 2 days.
All right, so I want to bring up this point. Go ahead. I want to bring up this point right here.
Yeah.
And
go for it.
We talk about COVID and that schedule change there. And if they want to talk about making it easy, why are we stacking all these daggone tournaments on top of each other and pretty much going to the same lake that 50 people that, 50% of the field have been to at least 6 to 12 times. And they already got their waypoints. They already know what's going on. I mean, that was... that was a cool thing me and Geek talked about, and we loved it. I mean, we had fishing in October, November, and we loved it because you want to talk about making it, making it easy. It should be tough. Let's talk about that. Let's move on to that part of it.
Pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn.
And then we're done.
Time of year to fish.
And they've done it forever. And these are the same people. These are the boomers that are on the boards. They're like, well, we always do it now because that's what we did during World War II, and we won't fish in the fall. I got to go deer hunting. And when you read this thing, please pull yourself out of it and just there's so many people that are just clapping like seals when he does this. And these are the same people that when other things drop news, they're like, oh, I don't believe anything the media tells me. But if my hero says anything, I'm just going to clap. And read the article. Why would he say it's so weird that he wrote that? That was literally on his post that it makes it too easy. You're a professional for 20 years. Does it really make it that easy? Come on. Do you really believe that? Because if it was that easy, why do you suck right now? Like, again, I get so mad at this when it's... I think, Brian, you posted this. Like, the top 3 or 4 people in MLF are making the GDP of a small country. They're doing really good.
Yes.
They're not complaining about anything.
No.
Who's the ones complaining right now?
And most of them, most of them were winning without it.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
Everybody can point on the MLF side. They can point at Wheeler and DC, but they were winning without it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because I mean, Jacob before. I mean, the elites and the Major League Fishing guys, pro anglers. We all know they get the equipment early. But like what Geek said, I mean, heck, he was our like top money winner already Dustin,
Mm-hmm.
Wheeler and then Dustin came on with him. And between the two of them, I mean, good God. Yeah, I did share that. And it's the same with any sport and any single sport. I mean, NASCAR, same way, golf. I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna have that. And
And
then you're gonna have the ones that aren't that good, that haven't signed these sponsors, that haven't signed with Garmin to get the free or close enough to free, forward facing sonar and all this other stuff because they're not that good.
and people don't want to hear this in the fishing world. And again, when you get older, no athlete wants to hear this. Every athlete has a shelf life. It sucks. This is any sport. And it's whether you hit an age where you can't run the ball anymore, or your fastball doesn't have any pep, or the sport changed on you completely and it's a different
Mm-hmm.
sport and it doesn't work for you. And what we're seeing, I really believe, are that old guard really trying to hold on to power and say, like, they're being forced out because there's this massive disruption in how the sport is being played, and they're going kicking and screaming. And it just optically looks like that when you take it. If you made a spreadsheet of who's actually competing well right now, give me their age and everything. Well, it's going to be all the youth here, and it's anyone from Japan. It doesn't matter how age, because culturally they look at technology differently. They're fine with technology over there.
Yep.
My
Oh,
dad
yeah.
still uses a flip phone, and he doesn't know how to send an email. And that's my dad. Over here, we hit an age, it just scares us.
And let's not, me and Brian's had this conversation, and I think this is a point to the forward facing sonar, a point to the youth 10, 20 years ago. Rookies were 30, 35.
Yes.
So we put into place the high school, the college, the feeders, which
True.
every
True.
single pro sport has. And, so it's always been, I remember when Randall Tharp come in. I think he was a rookie and like winning tournaments or 2-3 years in when he was like 35 years old, maybe even older than that. And
Yeah.
on the FLW. And I was a huge Randall Tharp fan, still am. But the difference is now we put these feeder systems in, we're starting to see that pay off.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got these young kids who are savvy with electronics, and it's no different. The young guys were hungry and winning 20 years ago. KVD hasn't been at the top of his game in 15 years, 10 years at least, honestly.
And if I may say, we could say that he rode the last technology boom of side scan when ledge fishing was hot.
Yes. And so the point is, it's not that the rookies, it's not that it's a younger group or this youth group has this big edge. We've seen a perfect storm of it. But every group of young anglers, it always happens that you get this guy, he comes in, he's real good, wins a few tournaments, gets a bunch of sponsors. He goes from being the young, hungry, skinny guy to the fat cat on the block, and now he's just riding, collecting checks. It happens. We've seen it all through the history of tournament fishing. The very few, like Wheeler and KVD, they are the few that keep that hunger alive for an extended period of time.
It's hard. It's hard. All athletes go through this. That's what makes like a Cal Ripken or Brett Favre, Tom Brady, especially Tom Brady, like someone that just cares about winning when you've done it so much. You are not wired correctly in the head, by the way, people, if you're listening, to be that kind of person. This will come back as an argument. I keep coming back to this where technology, every generation has a better way they look at technology and how they advance it. And if we say that we're going to ban this now, I'm going to keep hitting this over the head again and again and again, the next generation is okay with this. Generally speaking, they're accepting of new technology. And so if you ban it now, once they're gone, it's coming back. It just will.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to stop technology. It's, it's just like the AI boom we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And the jobs it's going to cut out. And that happens it's called life cycle, guys. It really is. And it
It
happens
is.
in every sport, like Thomas said, and it happens in with tackle. I mean, we talk about that. Bait's going through a life cycle as well. And this bait's hot now because, the fish have seen every day on bait that's out there. And, you it's kind of like when you leave a hole and let it sit for about 30 minutes and you come back, try to catch that bass fish again. We're in a cycle. We really are in a
And
major cycle.
I want to ask both you something here on the show is let's just say in this world, as my light goes dark, in this world where tomorrow MLF and Bass both come out arm in arm and say, we're banning forward facing sonar completely. Does that go into effect next year? How does that affect everything? Because
Yeah.
if you have a boat fully rigged out and then you say, we are going to go to two 10-inch graphs and only black boxes, like, have people thought that out, like the economic impact of that? Because no one can sell their
No.
boats, right? Like, am I crazy here?
Yeah. You're not going to sell your boat. You're not going to sell the graphs. It's going to trickle down to all the other clubs and regional tournaments because we know that a lot of those tournaments and tournament directors run their tournament rules based on one set or the other, what their rules are. So they don't have to go in and write their own rule book. So where's that going to leave? Where's that going to leave? Listen, if I'm sitting back and I'm Garmin and I'm paying you a ton of money, or I'm Humminbird and I'm paying you a ton of money, I'm going to look back and say, well, you know what? You're going to ban this. I'm going to pay you less money.
And I like what you just said there, Geek, but I want to go back to a little NASCAR thing that happened many, many years ago because my parents were in NASCAR. I mean, they were in NASCAR. There was a sponsor called Winston,
Yep.
and it was called the Winston Cup for
Yep.
years until they parted ways. And NASCAR kind of changed. I mean, it really did change like big time when Winston left. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're talking about pumping a ton of money, and it happened. It happened when Walmart left FLW. I
Yep.
mean, and we saw that collapse, and then the eventual sale to Major League Fishing after Major League Fishing came out. Because I'll be honest, the pay dropped. I mean, from a Forest Wood Cup event, the check started like 500,000, then went to 250, and then went to 100,000, and it
We,
just go ahead.
I was going to
But
say,
so
also
we
throw
so
in the 2008 housing crisis in there too.
yeah, we had that as well.
Yeah. All right. We got to take a time out because I got to go.
Well, hey guys, Geek's got to roll, but we're gonna be right back, and we're gonna finish this bad boy up. So Geek had to roll out on us, but we really want to talk about this Clark Wendell um, bibliography that he posted in his plea for forward-facing sonar. And I've heard through the grapevine about limiting screens. I have heard about that because they say it's a safety issue in case an angler trips over these mammoth 15-inch monitors sitting on the top of the boat, and we had three of them, and we've seen some of them have more than three. And then we've talked about I don't think I think the transducers will be what will be limited because I saw a lot of boats have a lot of transducers on them bad boys in the Chris Zaldane video at the beginning of the year.
What do you think the odds are that they ban it outright? If you had to say a percent chance.
And that's why I brought up, guys, the part about Winston. I mean, we were going through a phase in life. Everybody grew up a smoker, my parents included. It was fascist. It was not fascist. What do you want to call it? It was like something that everybody did, and
It
it
was part
was
of the cultural zeitgeist.
yeah, yeah. And you kind of wonder about that as well with fishing and the forward facing sonar and the points that Clark made, making it easier, which it ain't. But I don't really ever foresee them banning it altogether. I don't see it because
That's where the
the
bread is buttered.
yeah, the fishing industry as a whole on the tournament side, um, is hurting. Period. I mean, you can't say it's you know, thank God for TV. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for the TV rights, I think we would be down to one series.
And that's an interesting thing here. Maybe the comment section can help us out. But if I'm not mistaken, Bass has been boasting for a couple of the events this year. They broke so many records with viewership and things like that on Fox. And so maybe I'm confused, but how can you be breaking records if that's the case with all these people are watching? But by the way, no one cares about fishing because of forward facing sonar. Like, it can't be both.
I like what you're saying there, Thomas. But you know what? These guys, I've been doing this for 15 years. They're gonna hate it, but they're still gonna show up. They will complain about a payout not being the best payout in the world, but they're gonna show up to fish this tournament. And I'm like, why don't you guys go pick another league? And they're like, well, we kind of like our friends still being here. So it's a when you're in the world of bass fishing, it's like a conversation piece, and we have seen that good and bad in 2024. We've seen that conversation piece, expand and even expand into the world of people who don't know anything about tournament bass fishing because of the things that have happened. So I mean, it's kind of like I know the car's coming towards me really, really fast, but I really want to pay attention to it, even though it might hit me.
I would like to know who's actually watching. Who are these figures? Because I'm really much a data guy and I want to base these things on logic. And if it's a bunch of, an older demographic watching an older demographic, it kind of makes sense to me. This is what's happening here. It's like baseball. Baseball has this big problem, like right before the steroid era, after of like we cannot change anything about baseball, and now all of a sudden we're doing a pitch count for how long you can be in the box, all this other stuff because
Yeah. Yep.
they waited too long to be like, oh, no one's watching the sport because we wouldn't evolve and let things change. And a lot of people complained when they even went to Bass Live. I remember that back in the day, and people were complaining at the St. Lawrence about having that live scope view down there, which that's really cool. When 10 years ago, we didn't even have live, and now we can watch their bait in my living room. That's still kind of cool, by the way, guys, whether you like it or not.
Awesome. I think it's awesome. I mean, like I said, you are seeing what the anglers are seeing right there. I mean, you either watch the back of their heads or you watch their screen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's come down to.
And you weren't just like many people at the St. Lawrence today, like, oh, this is terrible to watch, them on forward facing sonar, which, okay, let's say that's correct. They're in the ocean. What you want them to be then is a place where they're working a topwater bait or a frog or they're doing something. So that also has to do with where they're located. So if you take forward facing sonar away from the St. Lawrence River, well, it'd still be boring, wouldn't it? Because what are you looking at? What are they looking at? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Clark's thing just bothers me the way everything was stated. Some of the wording was used. I don't know why. It's when you go about and say like it makes it easy, and that's just not. I don't believe that's correct. It's not easy. And then you talk about how the sport is being affected by this, and it feels very emotional and not logical. And it's sad. I'm not trying to deny that emotionally he's coming from a place where, yeah, maybe he truly believes this, but it still doesn't feel like it's a very logical thing that he wrote out. It's more of an emotional plea that he wrote out of he wants it to be back to the good old days of what the sport was like. And I don't know if that's best for the sport because, MPFL, I love them. They were the first organization that basically, listen, we're going to do our own thing. You're going to like us. You don't have to. We're fine. We're Chick-fil-A. All we sell is chicken here. And people liked them. If Bass and the BPT, Major League Fishing, decide to do like no forward-facing sonar, what's going to happen is someone else is going to stop. I was like, we don't care. Just do whatever you want. Come on over here.
And I think that's why, the MPFL did that $100,000 payout for a tournament win. And they saw the writing on the wall and they're like, well, if we go to this payout, we got now Patrick Walters fishing the NPFL as well as Bassmaster. And, a lot of guys came over. Some guys that left Bass came over to fish NPFL. So, I mean, NPFL's grown and they've, like you said, they put everything in place. It's a great organization for the size of that organization. You guys heard me many, many times talk about it. They do an excellent job and they just love bass fishing. And that's the coolest part about it. So, but I mean, Time will tell. We got a long off season. It's
We do.
August. We've got till we're gonna see a lot, in about August, September, October. About November, you start seeing a lot more press releases come out for 2025. And
so, drum roll. What do you think? Over under. What's the percent chance they ban it completely? What's the percent chance that there's just some kind of limitation?
I say ban it completely, 25% chance.
Ooh.
I say it's very, very low. The money is not there anymore. The sponsorship's not there anymore like it used to be. Limit, I say 95%. I mean, if you wanted if we're going to 75% limit, I really do see going down to a maximum of 3 screens. Because I've talked to, I know John Cruz, like a year ago, he ran all 3. He ran a Garmin, he ran a Humminbird, and he ran a Lowrance, because each one of them did 3 different, each one of them were good for 2 or 3 different certain things. So I say limit 3, but the transducer, get back to that. I think they will limit that as well and go down to, 3 transducers as well, or 4 transducers. Because if you go back and watch that video, guys, it's way on back there now, because damn, we're halfway through. Season's over. But some of these guys had ocean transducers on their boat because they wanted a wider beam. It was just like, it was overkill. It was overkill.
It was overkill, and wasn't there, and guys, let us know down in the comment section, wasn't there, Bass came out with something that they're limiting screen size next year? Wasn't that already a thing, or was that just a rumor?
That they were what?
Do you know?
What was that?
Did Bass already talk about limiting screen size? Was that actually a law or just a rumor?
I want to say that's a rumor, because I have not seen anything, me personally, like you said, comment below if you guys have seen something, but I have not seen anything come out in regards to that whatsoever. The talk was for safety reasons, yeah. And that was the talk about that, because I got these big, huge monitors on it. I got a trip, a fall, you could do that anyway. Heck, that can happen. But that it was for safety reasons safety was what they kind of threw it out there as.
And I'm not just going to throw you under the bus. My speculation is there's a 45 to 50% chance that they ban it completely. It'll be some kind of lower level / this will happen in 2026 probably. They'll do it. They'll post it now and say like it'll go into effect into a year, just so they can see how it happens. And I agree with you almost like 100%. I think there's a massive chance that there's some kind of rule that gets thrown, something. But I still think there's a massive chance that they rip the Band-Aid to see how it goes down. It's now or never. Like, this is a fever pitch time if they want to make, at some point, you got to call their bluff. I feel like if you're a business, like, are you going to do something about it or not? And I feel like this is the time this winter that they need to figure that out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. This is the time, because if you let it go, it's become an argument in a forefront in the world of tournament bass fishing. And it's been one of the hottest topics in decades. This is, it really has been the hottest topic in decades. And if they're going to stop it, they need to do it now. They need to go ahead and say, like you said, 2025, 2026, forward facing sonars banned. And you got till then to get it off your boat.
And if I may say, like, that to me, and I tried to bring that up with Geekless here, and we talked about the professional level of it, but let's say for me, I do have forward-facing sonar on my boat. I have 2 12-inch graphs on my boat. Let's just say, for hyperbole spake, that they say you can't have a black box and you have to have 10-inch screens on your boat. Okay. I'm not sponsored. So am I saying if I want to fish a BFL, I have to get rid of and sell most of the electronics off my boat and get new stuff? Hell no, I'm not doing that. And this happened, by the way, in Little League in 2008. They changed the exit velocity safety regulations for baseball bats because they were too hot. Mm-hmm. And what they basically did was say, by the way, parents, now you all have to go out and buy new baseball bats because they're all illegal. And what was funny about that, and it hurt baseball bat sales, is before that, every new baseball bat you got was legitimately better. The technology was better. You could hit a baseball further. After they put that rule in place, the prices stayed the same, but the bats weren't necessarily better because it has the label that says the ball can only go so fast off the bat. So if you put all these rules in place that kill technology in this advancement, afterwards, why am I buying new product? It's all the same. The computer's not any faster that you're letting me have. The camera's not any better. It's the same camera. So I'm just going to stick with what I have. So there's going to be a ripple effect if they just rip it completely.
All right. So we saw this year and 2 tournaments. And you know what, guys, I want someone to help me on this one. We saw 2 tournaments this year where forward-facing sonar was banned altogether.
Linear was one.
Yeah. And the turnout was not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had another tournament someone put up. And I don't even remember when the hell that. Are we over it? I have heard nothing out of it. It
was Gunnersville in the fall.
So it's in the fall. So it's still got a little ways to go here.
Yeah. That will be fun. That'll be fun to see what happens there.
So, we're kind of waiting to see. And, guys are putting up the money that want to see a non-forward facing sonar event. And I've also heard, from a couple little small tournament trails here, because like everything else, like we were talking about earlier, it trickles down. And some of these tournament trails around here are looking to do a non-forward facing sonar event. I don't see where they're going to get the turnouts that you got out of like 150 anglers, you got 10 that don't want to see forward facing sonar.
Yeah. And again, what does this mean? Are you going to tell me I have to rip the transducer off my boat to go to this tournament? Do I just put a little thing over it? Like, are you going to start judging my boat? Like, it might be so much of a hassle where I wouldn't even want to do it. If you're like, I have to go to such an extraneous measure to get everything fixed up. And again, this is where I'm fascinated. I just want one big tournament that's just no scope. Let's just watch the viewing numbers and see what it's like for a couple of these things, because is it just a very loud minority of people, or is it most of the paying customer base? And it'll be interesting. And you see this with I think, BPT came out with an article on an MLF page about like how to be a co-angler in a forward-facing sonar world. And I've said it on my show a bunch, and I've gotten in trouble for it. Like, I feel like co-angling is just antiquated to a little bit. Like, if I have to pay a little bit more not to deal with that hassle, you can do that now. When I was a kid, everything was a co-angler tournament. And now you've run tournaments, the cat has run, so many people run tournaments where you don't have to deal with that. And it's just so many factors. It's not just one. There's just so many interesting threads you can pull on this whole argument.
And, what Clark was talking about, I will say this, and you kind of wonder about that. Will it actually eventually end up killing the co-angler? And, a lot of people don't like having a co-angler. And I hear it so many times that my co-angler didn't have a clue. He didn't know what was going on. And, he was just learning. And you hear so many different opinions and comments on that. And because I go to a lot of BFL events, I went to 2 last month. I mean, and I hear the chatter, I hear what everybody's talking about, but we really don't want to see the co-angler die, because that's what it's a feeder system that I know probably 5% the co-anglers will probably become a boater. And it's not a big percentage. And I guess that's what they're really looking at, saying, okay, how many of these guys that we're dragging along, and that's what a lot of them will say, I'm dragging along throughout the day and trying to help them become a better angler, or try to help them however they can become a better angler. And that's what they're signed up to do. So, I mean, it's...
And like I've said before on my show, it's never usually one thing. So an example is people have been saying online, like, well, forward-facing sonar is killing the BFLs in the co-angler, and then you pull back the threads a little bit more, and it's like, co-anglers aren't signing up, and it's like, well, boaters aren't signing up either. So what's going on? Is it forward-facing sonar? You pull back more, it's like, well, the payouts aren't what they used to be.
Right.
And then you pull back, it's like, well, is that because of forward-facing sonar? It's like, no, it's not. It's probably not because of forward-facing sonar. The payouts are bad. So why are the payouts bad? And then you start going through there, like, maybe it's are we just using this as a scapegoat? Is this the thing where you can point to it and just say, wolf, wolf, wolf on a hill? Because if you pull the payouts down and you keep pulling the payouts down, and you have to pick between winning no money and having a co-angler and dealing all this hassle, or winning no money over here, let's say, but you can just be by yourself. Okay, why not do this? Or if the money's better over here, why not do this? And I don't know. If you tell people next year you're not allowed to run forward-facing sonar on your boat, and the payouts suck, and you have to deal with a co-angler, you're not making this sound. This is not a great pitch for me.
No. And, you could equate that too to, like we brought up before, price of a boat. I mean, the prices have increased so much on a price of a boat, but the tournament payouts have not gotten any better.
And kayaking, the kayak word.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many things have changed in the world of bass fishing in the last, golly, 5 years at least. I mean, because, I figure, like you're saying, kayak world, that really took off in the last 5 years. And, that's changed a lot. And a lot of people have moved to that direction and wanted to stay in the world of bass fishing. And, the cool thing about a kayak, it's just you.
And Erwin Miner won the Susquehanna Bassmaster kayaking event, and he also signed up for a local event. And I think he won over like $15,000 for about the price of a BFL. That's insane money that's in there. And it's cheap. And
right.
I love this when you cover the industry. It's like you look at all these things in the history, and like this is the quiet killer that's starting to eat more of the lunch of the industry. And for how much we talk about forward-facing sonar, we don't talk about boats costing the GDP of a small country and kayak fishing getting popular in areas you can't have a boat in your garage.
All right, we're gonna wrap this bad boy up, but the debate continues on forward-facing sonar. We're hearing it from the pros now. They're starting to come out right here at the end of the season and voice their opinion. You voiced your opinion, and I hope we have a new topic in 2025. Let's just say that much. I mean, we really have beat this thing to death. And I'm hoping I'm hoping before 2025 gets here, we'll see a resolution to all this, from the Major League Fishing side, sending out their poll and trying to get people's opinion and feedback, and the Bassmaster Elite side as well. And, all coming to a happy agreement, and let's just move on. And I hate to say it's going to be, if you don't have forward-facing sonar, you're just not going to be competitive. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's here to stay. I mean, and even with the drop, then even, I talked to some friends of mine, even with the new Garmin, it came out. No, is it Lowrance? I think came out. We were talking about. Is it the Lowrance or Garmin? It's the one that came out of ICAST, guys.
I think it's Lowrance.
It still doesn't have all the stuff that the forward-facing sonar has. So I mean, it's just a smaller version of it. So I mean, it's going to help.
Yeah, and again, and I've stated this before on my show and other places where people are like, oh, this is a sign that like, maybe forward-facing sonar is not as important because it's drop. And it's like, okay, we could look at it that way, or we could also look like we are in an economic, downturn. And I'm fascinated for this point here in this conversation is how much I never wanted to be a forward-facing sonar like protectorate, but it's when it feels like we are in the Salem witch trials. And if you get a cold, it's because of forward-facing sonar. If you didn't catch them, it's like it's literally being blamed for everything. Yep. I can't believe they haven't said Mark Zona retired because of forward-facing sonar.
Yeah,
it's a little cartoonish at this point.
All right, so you guys voice your opinion. We love hearing it. We love hearing the comments. Thomas, what you got coming up, man, real quick before we roll out?
Oh, my goodness. I am always busy. We have a couple of great episodes. So if you guys don't know, I actually partnered with Maryland to do a couple of really cool episodes. First one is going to be with Ryan, who is the new head of the Black Bass Association Department in the Maryland DWR. Then I have another episode with the guy that actually runs the Invasive Species Task Force. He grew up on the Eastern Shore around Chincoteague and all that. So we're going to talk about the saltwater fishing, snakeheads. And then I'm also, this will be breaking here, I am partnering up with the Virginia DWR next year I'm going to be kind of like in their kind of board position, so to speak, to hear about what legislation is going by. And I'm going to be running all of their river reports are going to come through me. I'm going to batch shoot biologist reports for every single river and lake in Virginia this winter. And then we're going to troubleshoot them out throughout the year. We have awesome. a big one that's going to drop about Smith Mountain Lake before the BBT gets there, talking about the history of the F1 stocking program there. So that will be kind of fun.
Dude, that's going to be awesome right there. All right, guys. Here, thebasscast.com. It's kind of slow right here, but we're about ready to pick up, guys, because like I said, I mean, we got some big tournaments coming up. We got the first Bass Kings event. We still got the Liberty University Summer Bash that's happening, sponsored by us truly, thebasscast.com, trying to help out the LU youth and keep that movement alive right here in Central Virginia. The Basscast kicks up again October. I want to say that's the 5th or 6th. I have to look at the calendar again. We got that coming up. Don't forget the Basscast mobile app. And you guys have a great night, everyone. I think we're going to air this show on Monday because we'll probably eventually we'll do another show on Wednesday. But we just had so much to talk about with what's going on right now in the world of bass fishing. And I tell people right now, man, you want to know what to write about? Just open your ears because they are spewing it in 2024. So have a great night, everyone. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you all again next week right here on Basscast Radio.
Bye.